right. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves and each other and the world, where we have been doing so for 75 years come April 13th. Yes! This is our anniversary service in honor of this wonderful occasion. Naturally, our 75th anniversary committee, which you'll hear a little bit more about in just a moment, would have loved to throw a big party. We should have cake, we should have lunch, and everything's still a little bit weird on that front because of COVID. But the end of our restriction on that is coming soon, and so we will stretch out the celebration. After all, we are 75 years old all year, so the party will continue past this service at a date to be named very soon. I want to let you know about a couple of important things in your order of service. If you see that online, you can follow the links that are put in the Zoom chat there. Here you can also see it electronically if you prefer. The QR code for the order of service is always there at the table as you come in, along with paper ones, so you can save on some paper there. And yes, we'll probably be making use of these screens for such purposes eventually, but you know, we are all getting up to speed with all the marvelous things we can do with the new AV. So at the moment, those are the two ways to get hold of the order of service. If you look in there, you will see that after this service is our budget town hall. It's really great, not only because we are a democratic organization and practicing transparency and learning all the ins and outs of how the congregation works. It's really great to learn about the financial ins and outs. That's presented by the Finance Committee and our board, and they will answer all the questions that you may have at the budget town hall. But it's also, as they say, a budget is a moral document, and you can find out a lot about what's important to the folks of UUCPA by finding out what's in the budget and getting all your questions answered in advance of our annual meeting when we vote on that budget in 2 weeks. 3 weeks, sorry about that. 3 weeks, April 24th is the annual meeting. I also want to ask Brian to say a few words as he is representing our 75th anniversary committee here.
Good morning. I just want to acknowledge the committee, some of whom are here, which I'm happy to see, that guided us here to this day and for the future celebration throughout the year. Bear Capron, who added invaluable history knowledge to our quest. He actually attended the groundbreaking ceremony as a youth for this school. Florence Haas, who added wisdom and knowledge to our little group. Eric Breer, who you'll see represented with the photographs later today, who put together a magnificent display of photos from his own collection and from throughout the congregation, and his own narration. It's an invaluable collection. And Judy Lookabill, who I call the 5 C's, calm, cool, collected, co-chair. That's our committee.
Thank you all. I want you to know, first of all, that I figured out some ways to consolidate, and our service will not be as long as the first one was. And also that I did not realize that we have marvelous musicians playing with our choir today, so I want to thank Barry and Tom for joining us on the violin and cello. And now, let us begin our service.
service, will you join me, please, in the William F. Schultz reading? Bill Schultz was a Unitarian Universalist minister who later became head of Amnesty International. Come into this place of peace, and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory, and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power, and let its vision change your heart. Centering words were written by Bertrand Russell. We need, for our happiness, not only the enjoyment of this or that, but hope and enterprise and change. Let's follow this beautiful bell into a few minutes of silence.
Now, the way we give thanks appears in the Teal hymnal. It has just this first verse. But Wendy Llewellyn Perkins wrote another verse that appears here as the second one and is very appropriate for our celebration. So I invite you to look in your order of service and rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing together all three verses of We Give Thanks. This is the time in the service when we share our joys, our sorrows, the important events of our lives. It does so much to not only weave this congregation together as a group of people who know each other's important events and what's going on for us, within us, but it also helps us to open our hearts in compassion and remember that everybody is carrying something that we can't know, and to meet not only the folks here in our community with more tenderness and compassion, but we hope the people that we meet all through the week as well. So if you have something to share, you can send it to, I said joyconcern@uucpa.org, and then I realized I don't have my phone with me. Sorry, I can't actually check that email. So if you if you shared it that way, please come up and fill in a card or put it in the Zoom box so that I will be able to see it and share it. Sorry to be scattered about that. Of who we are. We've got a lot of strong singers with us today, so I'm going to trust that just once or twice through this song can give us the strength we need to split into two parts and hear how it goes as a round, or you can pick whatever part you want. Now, this is number 383 in your gray hymnal. You have the words there if you're looking online. They are very, very complicated. Hallelujah, hallelujah, amen, amen. The most important thing, aside from mastering the fairly simple tune, is to not sing it the way I just said it. Hallelujah means praise God, or praise, and amen means so be it, let it be so. So, we have to say it with all the joy with which we are celebrating. Whatever we are celebrating, of course, foremost today being this congregation and its 75 years. So will you please rise in body or spirit? And I'll sing it through for you a couple times with Veronica, and then you can join in, and then I'm going to signal to this half of the room to begin. When this half of the room is done with its alleluias and comes to the amens, this half of the room begins with alleluia, and you continue, of course, and we'll sing it through a few times together so that we can hear the lovely harmony that's made when those two parts play together.
Hi, I'm Eric Beer. I love to tell stories with photos, so let me use some photos to tell you about our church. In the early days, there was a plan, a sign, a lot of open space, and an enthusiastic congregation who came to help with the groundbreaking. Construction started in 1958 and finished the same year, in time to hold a service in September in the new main hall. Thanks to hard-working search committees, we found ministers to help guide the church, including Dan Lyon, Mike Young, Ron Hargis, Bill Jacobson, Sam Wright and Donna Lee were co-ministers, Darcy Lane, Ken Collier, and our current ministers, Amy Zucker Morgenstern and Dan Harper. There's a lot going on at UUCPA. We love to bring our talents to this community, whether they are juggling, rolling on shoes with wheels, sword swallowing, quilt making, jump rope, using a telescope, or photography. We love to put on a costume and put on a show, as for the Mikado in 1966, and here are some shows from the 1980s. The costume party at a retreat, getting ready to perform at the auction, 2 funny scenes about the Stratford Sonnets baseball team, a play about Adam and Eve with Philip, Sarah, Fred, and Barbara, a Hanukkah play, and the Flying Zambini Circus with Reverend Amy as a Zambini. Kids love to dress up for Halloween, and so do the teens and the adults. Some years, participants of all generations join in the parade. And have candy at coffee hour. Some of us love to read plays together, whether it is at the Thespians Group or at the Awicki's annual Shakespeare party, where we wear balloon costumes. We don't have to learn our lines. We read from the scripts, make bold choices, and have a lot of fun. Church people are great to have over for parties, whether it is a costume party, a Miracle Berries party where we built a tower to the ceiling, auction dinners, Queen Darcy and Prince Nick's tea party, a 1980s party, the Moroccan dinner, brunch with berries, or a karaoke party. Also, church people and church rooms are great for birthday parties. After all those slides, we need a vacation. Let's go to Bass Lake. We've been going there for decades. We stay in cabins, relax, climb things, solve jigsaw puzzles, make art, take the beautiful walk down to the lake, enjoy the view, go out in the water ski boat, paddle in kayaks, make tie-dye, ride horses, go on a trail ride, celebrate happy hour, eat together, enjoy the campfire program with dancing, skits, and even the no-talent circus, Flying Zambinis. On the last day, we have a church service under the pine trees. At our church, we like to play together, whether it is chess on the patio, volleyball at Mitchell Park, amoeba tag, a sitting game, parachute games, or giant Jenga. We also like to dance together, whether it is partner dance, in a circle, in lines, in reels, holding hands, with live music, or doing the hokey pokey. We also like to hike together, whether it is at Bass Lake, backpacking, at Skyline, at sunset, or in the dark. We love to eat together. We have a lot of great help in the kitchen, making hot meals, sandwiches, or desserts. We have helpful servers. We love barbecue dinners, picnics at Mitchell Park, Sunday lunches, community dinners, canvas dinners, and other events. UUCPA ministers have performed many weddings. Dan Lyon married Fran and Bryce. Ken Collier married Lynn and me. Sam Wright and Donna Lee married Bill and Christy. Kurt Kuwald presided over this wedding. Pam Allen Thompson married Sean and Con. Darcy Lane married Joy and Amy. and Amy married Joe and Pamela. We also celebrate anniversaries, like this one for Jack and Cindy Bradley. We've had a number of farewell parties, including this one for Ken Collier, one for the Leach Phillips family, for Hershey Julian, for Bill and Jean McFadden, and for Pat and Tom Thomas, with food and a performance by the choir. For children's religious education, we have story time, acting out stories, the Our Whole Lives Sexuality Education class, snack time, trips to the kitchen to do some cooking, and even some sleepovers. There's a lot going on in adult religious education as well. We support our youth in many ways, including our coming of age program, with small group activities, large group activities, physical challenges like a ropes course, trust exercises, and opportunities for youth-led worship. We also have year-round gatherings for the senior high youth group. For our congregational meetings, our leaders prepare well, explain the current issues, and take questions, and carefully count the votes. Other church events include the yard sale, Sunday brunch, and Dia de los Muertos. Sometimes we even get to help ordain a new minister. Now let's take another break and go to the auction, an annual event in November. It can have different themes. Food is served. People wear balloon hats. Get your auction catalog and your paddle number and bid on things. Do you want to go to that performance or that dinner party? While the adults are bidding, the children have their own auction, run by the senior high youth group. Kids bid with edible tokens for the tempting prizes. Sometimes they grow up and become auctioneers themselves. At the end of the evening is the live auction, and we are lucky to have many talented auctioneers. We practice using our paddles, bid at the right time, even dance with our paddles, and win great prizes. Another annual event is the No Rehearsal Christmas Pageant, brought to the church by Dan Harper. It attracts all ages. You may get to be a shepherd, a king, a barnyard animal, a star, Mary or Joseph, or an angel. And all of the actors gather for the finale. The ministers and staff get into the act as well. But what is it like to visit our church? Well, first we have to get there. We might get there on a bicycle, even a bicycle built for two. When we get there, we may see our main hall with its solar panels and rainbow flag, the Peace Pool, the Till Evans Garden, the brick planter for the madrone tree, which has gotten bigger over the years, the redwood grove, the handmade labyrinth, or the new, more permanent one, on a Sunday, we may see some of our staff. If it's early May, we may dance around the maypole, an event that started in 2005 and has been known to have face painting, live music, costumes, Morris dancing, ice cream, and occasional visits from the ministers. During the pandemic, we had a virtual maypole dance. If it's Easter, you may see some costumes and almost certainly an Easter egg hunt. If it's Mother's Day, there will probably be a flower communion, where we give and receive flowers. In September, at Water Communion, we bring water from our travels and learn how many water molecules are in the world. If it's Christmas Eve, we have a service with candlelight. For winter solstice, we get ready for the returning of the light. On some special days, we have child dedications like these for Jessalyn, Indigo, and Grace and Emmanuel. In the main hall, we may find a bookstore. Be greeted by an usher. See our banners and madrone branch. We may visit in person or from our computers. We'd light our chalice, donated in honor of Sandy Elkin. We follow the bell into silence. Hear Veronica play the piano. Listen to the guest musicians. Hear an insightful contribution from the worship associate, and a sermon from Reverend Amy. Sing along with Bruce, and say our benediction together. Afterwards, of course, there will be coffee hour, which has been going on for a long time, with coffee, treats, and conversation. In the present, we are weathering a global pandemic. We have learned how to offer online services, how the choir can practice with social distancing, how to bring online members into the main hall, how to tell stories with stuffies, how to gather from our homes, how to hear Veronica and Bruce from their homes, how to hold the forum online, how the choir can sing outside and be heard inside, how to keep enjoying our favorite musicians. Like the participants of the groundbreaking in 1958, we are building the foundations of the future of UUCPA.
hope it's okay to cry instead of clap. It's beautiful. On April 13th, 1947, 27 people signed the charter for what was at that time called the Palo Alto Unitarian Church. I don't know if they imagined where we would be or who we would be 75 years later, but I can't help but think they'd be just thrilled. There's these two brothers whose work I really love. Chip and Dan Heath write a lot of good advice on organizational thinking, on trying to make a change, on trying to sustain an organization in difficult times. Chip and Dan Heath, one of the things that they said that's really helpful at a moment like this is they talk about when you're trying to make a change in particular, but it goes just as well for when you're trying to keep things going well. They say clone the bright spots, clone the high points, find them, which means knowing what was most important, where you've accomplished as a person or as an organization, those things that you say, yes, that's what it's for. And clone them, make more of them. It's so much easier, right, than starting from scratch. And it's a reminder both of what's important to us and that we know how to do this. So it was really interesting to me to see how often that movement came up in this week's 75th anniversary adult religious education class, the last of 10. I was seeing the 7. It's just shining at me. The last of 10, and really not so much a class on our history as a panel of 9 people in the congregation speaking of what they want the future to be. And they had some thoughts about how we can be different. They have some things they want to see more of or less of. But over and over again, what they were doing was talking about their own experiences, the bright spots from their time at UUCPA, and how we could build on those or have more of those or bring that brightness to some other part of our communal life together. I missed it because I was on vacation this week, but it was recorded, as all of these are, so I encourage you to go follow the link in your order of service to watch any of them. And that one in particular just filled my heart with hope and inspiration. What they were really doing, and what Chip and Dan Heath are asking us to do, are pay attention to the lifted moments. And in this title, I'm doing the same as I did for the previous 2 sermons in this little mini series on our history, on our congregation's creation, which is appropriately for this congregation to quote some of the music that's important to us. The first one a few months back was on our sacred space, was on our buildings and our grounds, and so I quoted for the title our first hymn with the line, "Every casual corner a shrine." And then speaking about our social justice, for which sermon we saw Eric's portion on social justice. So it's not missing from his history, it was just missing from this version, and you can go back and see the whole thing, again, by following the link in your order of service. So I quoted a line from Spirit of Life, giving life the shape of justice. So although we're not singing the song today, The Morning Hangs a Signal, it's in our hymnal, and it's from a poem by William Gannett, Channing, and I'm not sure which of that is, and a 19th century Unitarian, and one of the verses goes, "The soul has lifted moments above the drift of days, when life's great meaning breaketh in sunrise on our ways. These are the moments that we are trying to create, trying to give rise to together in creating a congregation, in sustaining a congregation. Those moments when our soul is lifted like these balloons and suddenly something about life's meaning is clear to us. That's what we're doing. That's what we do together for one another and ourselves and the world in creating this congregation. I've been reading a book called The Gardener and the Carpenter that is by a neuroscientist, Alison Gopnik. She's studied mostly very young children, 3 and under, for her long career in neuroscience at Berkeley. And she chose that title because it gives voice to an idea that she thinks is very important for us as people who are parents or relatives or friends of very young children, people who are helping to raise young children or teach them, or people like us in a congregation for whom young children are part of our community. She says the idea that's rooted in her decades of research as a neuroscientist is that children are not constructed so much as they grow. And she says, we have this dominant metaphor. It's in parenting, even in the term parenting. It's in our teaching. It's in so much of what we do as a culture that acts as if children, that is to say human beings, are kind of built on a model. Oh, here's a new human being, and I've got a good model for what a human being is, so I'm going to try to build a new one. And she says, that's not really how it works. Looking at how children learn and think and use language, we can see from a very young age that they're much more like plants. And so those of us who want to grow new human beings, well, that's what we're doing. We're growing them. And what do you do for a plant? You don't take a model and then reproduce the model. No, the plant has within it the knowledge that it needs, right? If that's the human soul, many people would call that God. We have instructions on how to grow into a full adult human being. And what the adults around us need to do for us as we're young and growing into adulthood ourselves is to be gardeners, to provide the nutrients, the nurture, a safe space, an environment that is safe and celebratory for us to grow into, we hope, wise and caring and curious adults. It's the same with a congregation. It really is. We build things. We build these buildings. We built internet connections. But we don't build souls. We grow souls. What we need from each other is to be gardeners. We create an environment in which we can each grow and thrive into and grow into what we have it in us to be, as long as we're given a good environment and encouragement, the nutrients we need, which in the case of human souls is a lot of listening and caring and occasional loving challenge. That's what gardeners do. And I think that that's what we've done for 75 years. I'd love to be able to tell the people who gathered here that that's what they planted. A garden that would keep thriving, with gardeners who would keep making an environment for growth and discovery and joy and love. And that's what I hope we'll do for the people who are here 75 years from now, who maybe see our pictures and laugh at our fashions and don't really know what was in our hearts, except that it will show in what we have done the subsequent 75 years. When the predecessor of this congregation was gathered in 1891, the same jokes were made as we hear now. Sometimes we make them ourselves. They published in the newspapers, locally that the Unitarians were gathering for no reason that they could articulate. Now, we tell this joke on ourselves too, but you know, I'm serious here. The reason that a Unitarian Universalist congregation looks so different in this particular way, finds it so hard to say in a way satisfying to other people of other congregations what we're here for, is that we're really countercultural. I mean, we're a lot like other religious communities in many, many ways, and some of them share this with us as well. But really what that newspaper article was saying is, churches are supposed to be carpenters. You're supposed to come to a church because there's a model of what a person is supposed to be, and they are supposed to build you into that model. And then this Unitarian church comes along, and they're being gardeners. They're saying, you don't need to know exactly what you're going to grow into. We don't need to know exactly what you're going to grow into. We don't all have to grow into the same thing. We don't have a model. You don't have a model for a plant. You say, oh, this is that kind of seed. That's what it's going to grow into if we give it what it needs. And that's not always easy to articulate. But I think Wei-Jia Chang, when they were on the panel on Wednesday, articulated it in another way, which is that they said, this is a place where we're seeking. It's a community for seeking, and we help each other to seek. And that might lead other people outside to say, what are you looking for? And, well, we might have some answers to that, but also any true search, you don't know exactly what you're searching for until you find it. And then you might keep looking on before then, because the seeking in life never stops. That's what they were creating in 1947, in that earlier congregation in 1891 as well. They were building a garden. They were digging up the soil and saying, this is the place where you can seek what you are and what truth emerges for you, and we will help you with that. And if that sounds a little vague, well, yeah, compared to here's the model and we're going to build it and it's going to look like the blueprints, it does sound kind of vague. But as any gardener knows, it really works, if that's what you want. Brooke brought up another wonderful plant metaphor in her presentation to the panel. I'm just going to tell you that, and you should watch it, because it gave a lot of joy and hope to my spirit. So in 1947, those who signed the charter, they became gardeners. They believed that the soul, given nurture, will have these lifted moments. They don't need to know what the meaning of life is that they're going to drop into the soul. The soul will find out in those lifted moments if we make them possible. You know, these banners, you may have seen the picture. There's a shadow box of these banners, and you may have seen them go by on some of Eric's pictures. The shadow box is right now in the lobby, but it'll be back hanging on the wall in the library, so you can see it any time. Jeff got the banners out for me, and they've held up pretty well. Colors fade over time, and there's a few little tears, and styles change for sure. But you know what is perennial is what these say on them. I know they look like abstractions, but if you just read along the right, they're abstractions of words. Freedom, reason, tolerance, and love. And there's a reason for those four words come from some of the historical understanding of what Unitarians and then what Universalists were about. I won't go off into that in too much detail, lest this sermon go as long as I did the first service. But though we might word them differently, they sound like a lot of the passions that bring people here now. And also, after Brian found that lovely quote from Bertrand Russell for our centering words, I was reading some things by and about Bertrand Russell, and I just laughed out loud when I found this. It was so so right for these banners and for this occasion. Elsewhere, he wrote, this great logician, this great philosopher of logic and mathematics. 3 passions, he wrote. 3 passions, simple but overwhelmingly strong, have governed my life. The longing for love, the search for knowledge, and unbearable pity for the suffering of humankind. There's a wonderful story about how that third element became so important to him. But 3 passions: love, knowledge, and the alleviation of suffering. I think when we think about our lifted moments connected to this congregation, a lot of them will echo some of those passions, and others as well. And we're going to take some time during when Martin plays for us for the offering, in addition to make our offering of lifted moments here on these papers. They have balloons on them, letting nobody say that an art education was wasted and did not have any professional use. There are many balloons drawn on these papers. I hope enough for us. I may come along and draw some more. And I could go on and on about some of the lifted moments that I see in those pictures and the history that has been shared with us over the last few months. I'll just share a few that lift my own soul as if it's a balloon filled with helium. Early on, when Dan Lyon was the minister of this congregation, the call went out from Selma, from Martin Luther King and his organization, to people of faith, especially white people from around the country: come to Selma, come and help us to work for the right to vote. And Dan Lyon said, I have to go, and this congregation supported him. That's one of our lifted moments. I think of the story a little before my time, but I was told it when I arrived here, that Bill Capron, Bear's father, shared his journey through cancer with his covenant group, what our chalice circles or other small groups might have been called then, and how they accompanied him all the way to the end. I think about Phyllis Castle at the Bass Lake campfire, reading to the kids and all of us that great Dr. Seuss story about the pale green pants with nobody inside them, sharing with such love and that fabulous Boston accent and humor and confidence in them this story for kids about how they could deal with their fears. I think of Chris Gehring, how she looked in her wedding dress when she and I went up to San Francisco together to celebrate the city's granting of marriage licenses to same-sex couples before the whole state got on board. I think about how the need for affordable housing was seen in this community, and people of this congregation formed an organization to figure out solutions for senior housing, and how the congregation gave away, you saw in that picture of our original land, gave away about half our land to build Stevenson House, our next door neighbor, so that seniors could continue to live in this community. So many. And so many lifted moments for me, as I'm sure they are for you, are too private, too personal, belong to somebody else, and can't be put on those balloons, at least not with disguising somebody's identity. They're private conversations, moments in a class, moments out in the parking lot after an event, just talking, moments by a bedside. But these are the moments that we will clone and take with us into the future, so that people 75 years from now will say, they've kept it going. They've kept this vision, they've kept this flame for 150 years, and this is still a place for my soul to be lifted up, to have the meaning of life fall down on me like water, completely unexpected, because of, through this congregation's ministry. So I invite you now, as Martin plays, to do two things. One, if you feel grateful for this congregation, please use the QR code in your order of service or available on the table back there to give electronically, or there's a box that you can drop cash or a check in if that's how you prefer to give to our offering as you leave. And to think of a lifted moment for you and write it onto one of these balloons from this side of the table, so you'll see that's how the balloons go. There's markers there for you to do that. And I know there's probably more people than can do that in this time. Don't worry, the paper will stay. You can do it after our gathered time here. And I will keep them all from the previous service and from this service and share them all with us for a long, long time to come. Now we will gratefully receive the offering, both of your financial support of this congregation and of your experiences, the moments that your soul has had, lifted moments to share here with one another for our vision going forward for the next wonderful celebratory 75 years. Please. Put them in the Zoom chat, and I will also share yours in writing right here. Just put them up there and I'll transcribe them. And again, if I miss any during the service, I'll check the chat and put them up afterwards. On the balloons as long as you wish, and keep them all. Oops, can't really hear me if my mic's down. I will repeat that. You can keep putting your putting your lifted moments both on the balloons and in the chat, and they will all find their way there. This hymn that we are just about to sing, The Fire of Commitment, which is number 1028 in your teal hymnal, or there in your order of service, you may notice as you listen to the verses, it moves from past to our own lives into the future, just like the motion of our service today. In fact, it was written for another congregation's 50th anniversary, so it's very appropriate for us today. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing together, The Fire of Commitment. One more verse. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic choice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can be. Yeah, you absolutely need that last verse. That's where we go from here. Speaking of which, we have greetings from the Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray before we close.
Greetings, Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. I'm Susan Frederick Gray, president of your Unitarian Universalist Association, and on behalf of everyone at the UUA and all of your sibling congregations across the association, we wish you a very happy 75th anniversary. Wow. I am so inspired by the way that all of you are embracing your mission and deepening your ties of community in this unbelievably difficult time. Even as the pace of change, ongoing uncertainty, and loss has been so difficult, you are ministering to each other deeply and profoundly in ways that are life-saving. I'm so inspired by your ministry to children, youth, and families, and the leadership that you are offering not only your local community, but also the wider UUA. Thank you. And thank you to the Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern and to your entire ministry team and all of the leaders, staff, and volunteers who make your community a vibrant and vital source of love and justice. May this anniversary, this 75th anniversary, be a source of joy, and may it be a reminder that no matter how far apart or all the ways that we gather, that we are connected by unseen but real threads of care and intention, of ministry and mission. May this time of looking back also be a way of dreaming forward as you live more deeply into your Unitarian Universalist faith community. I send you much love and deep blessings on this day and all the days ahead. Happy anniversary.
Eternal. People who want to be guided by them have always been among us.
75 years ago, a small group of such people kindled that flame here in Palo Alto. And for 75 years, they and thousands more of us have fed that flame.
Each of us, from those who have been here for decades to those whose first visit to this congregation was this morning. Each of us has nurtured it with our own living, our own sharing, our own struggles and cares, and with our love for each other and this world.
And now we carry it into the future, carry it in our hearts, as we always do, and remind ourselves each time we gather of that flame within.
Until we meet again and light this chalice, may the fire burn brightly within us. Go ahead. Thank you. Judy, Brian's calm, cool, collected co-chair, also does a wonderful job of bringing fabulous musicians, and Martin, you're a great choice for this celebratory service. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. If you are online, please do stick around for virtual coffee time via the breakout rooms after the service. And everyone now, if you need to change your video and audio settings so we can all hear one another giving the benediction, I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Hold hands with the person next to you if you're both good with that. But another way to offer a blessing is to just cover your hands, cover your heart, and put out a hand to the person next to you as we say our words of blessing. Go out into the world in peace. Be of good
courage. Fast what is good.
No one
evil for evil.
Strengthen the faint-hearted.
Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak.
Suffering.
Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Speak love with word and deed. Honor all beings.
God, that's terrible.